So we're going to talk about the three types of writers on Substack today. Because I'm somebody who's very interested in the thing that unlocks what's inside you and not the hack that's supposed to be pasted on top of you. I don't know if y'all have ever experienced that, where you read some sort of advice and you're like, well, gosh, that sounds like if I do that, I'm just going to start sounding like them instead of like me. Um, And I'm someone who has a long background in publishing and marketing, and I feel like there's a point where everything starts to sound the same. And as somebody who loves editorial craft, that's my deepest nightmare is sounding like somebody else, not sounding like me. And so over the last 4 years, I basically have been experimenting on Substack with editorial craft and publishing and trying to find a way to help folks discover who they are inside this publishing experience so that they can make a publication that's theirs, not somebody else's. And so today I want to dive into my Publishing Archetype Quiz, which has been live for about a week now. It's gotten a couple hundred folks who have gone through it. It's been really fun to watch the results come in and see folks finding their, I call them their archetype besties in the comments, which it wasn't an outcome I was expecting from the quiz, but it's been a really nice perk. But I want to talk today about why does it matter what kind of Substack writer you are? What are the three types of writers, and what I call them the publishing archetypes? What are they based on, and what can you actually do with that insight? And then I also have a tool that I've made that you can take with you once you've taken the quiz. So while I'm sitting here thinking about it, I'm actually going to copy and paste the link to the quiz in here in case you haven't taken it. It's about 12 questions. One of the most consistent pieces of feedback I've gotten from folks who've taken it is that the questions make them pause and make them a little nervous because they don't know where they're going to land, which means that my quiz writing skills are still chef's kiss. You'll land where you're supposed to land. So feel confident about that. So why does this matter? Why does it matter to that we know what kind of writer we are on Substack? Am I just creating more work for you? Am I just creating more complexity where simplicity would be more helpful? And I really did struggle. I really, really questioned that when I was going through just the process of deciding, would this be helpful to my readers on the publishing spectrum to actually know how they publish and how they relate to the moving mechanisms inside publishing and the creative relationship with your work inside this sort of public publishing experience, right? And I think the reason that I decided it was an important tool to make for y'all is that there's a lot of writers and professionals, particularly I find the smarter you are, the more likely you are to get stuck. They get stuck following strategies that just don't fit them. And they end up spending lots of energy that could be put toward the actual writing and creative work you want to do. And when they take these strategies and they apply them, and then number one, they don't work, they have less time for their writing or their creative sort of explorations, they tend to land at the wrong conclusion. And I've seen this over and over and over again, that you follow the hack, you implement the thing, you do the thing, and then it falls flat. And you turn your analysis on, maybe I'm just not talented, when actually it's just that you work differently, and that how you publish is actually creating a barrier to finding the thing that you actually need to say next. So I've worked with a lot of folks across the spectrum of creativity, authors, New York Times bestselling authors, founders. There is usually something inside their systems that is getting in the way of them finding that next clear voice that they're trying to bring forward, the next clear idea they're trying to bring forward. So what I began to realize is that all the publishing nuance I think that I took for granted from my background in print and digital and marketing actually really comes in handy here for you to know what to push away that will just get in the way of you finding your voice and finding that connection to your craft. So So I think maybe it'd be helpful really quickly just to say that like before I came to Substack in 2022, I had built a lot of publishing sort of. I had built teams around self-publishing. I had worked inside print. I had worked inside marketing, and I'd seen all the mechanisms. And I had helped other people grow. But my voice, whenever I pulled from like myself as the source, I kept getting stuck. I kept getting stuck. I kept getting exhausted. That was the number one thing is I would just get tired from having to pull all these mechanisms together. And then I would wonder, well, why is it my voice coming through? And with Substack, I was exhausted. I was a first time mom, but I was really curious about Substack. And so I just threw all of the rules out and began to just play for a while. And over time, I began to test like one by one, what can I add to my system really intentionally that helps me publish in a way that makes sense for readers and also doesn't crowd my voice out. So all of that to say, I have been on both sides of this sort of publishing journey where I can see it working for everybody else. I know I have the talent. I'm a trained journalist. I have worked with lots of talented people, but my voice seems to find some sort of wall. Um, I think the thing that changed for me on Substack, partly that Substack is a great tool. It's very intuitive if you have some background in publishing, but also it takes a lot of the work out of the a lot of the well, I called it like MacGyvering, like you used to MacGyver together. And if y'all did this, if you were an author 10 years ago, you had a lot of systems to keep running and then also write on top of that. So anyways, I want y'all to understand the types of publishing patterns that I see showing up that from my work in just in my own publication, but also in people that I've helped find their way to building flourishing publications. So there are three. I call them publishing archetypes because I think how you handle your publication is that's like the vision of what you're building on Substack, and that's what readers are looking at when they come to you on Substack. So let's start with the first one. So the first archetype is the wayfinder. So this wayfinder is a person who I can see some faces of wayfinders that I've worked with before. Like they write from what pulls them forward, not from like an organized plan necessarily. So like they need lots of freedom. They need space to explore. And sometimes I notice that they tend to over apologize, like if they change directions, when actually their ability to shift between freedom and containment is what makes them an interesting publisher on Substack. And the people that I've worked with that are like this, when I look at because I work a lot on the back end just to kind of get a pulse of their publication through the data, the readers are actually very engaged. And so there is often this tug between what a wayfinder senses about their publication and what's actually happening inside it. And so what I have found is that for wayfinders, their strategy really is about keeping light, intuitive structure so that it's not just kind of going in every direction. But they build trust with their readers with some cadence. There's some cadence built in because that does also feed them. So I don't know if that resonates with anybody here. Right now, Wayfinder is the top result that people are getting. A couple hundred folks have already taken the quiz. I was surprised. I was really surprised about Wayfinders because I thought it would have been this other one, but it's actually not. I thought it was going to be the free range writer, which we'll talk about next. So the free range writer is, I've met a handful of these. I've worked with a handful of them. These are folks who do not want to be told what to do in any sense of the word. Like they have probably done the content creation churn on Instagram, and they are coming to Substack to publish something fueled by curiosity, seasonality. They take breaks when they want to, they engage when they want to, and they write in waves and across themes inside their life. And a lot of free range writers who come into the publishing spectrum, I can always pick up on the feeling of someone judging their, what they think is like creative complexity. I see as like creative movements. Like when someone is innately opposed to publishing on a schedule, I say, great. we're going to follow that because that is ultimately the open door to creative ingenuity. So free range writers, I think they struggle a little more with self-trust and consistency. And they find some way that like visibility becomes a thing they have to toggle in and out of. I think I've met free range writers that are really talented, but they're in a season where they need some seclusion from whatever it was they were doing before. So I've worked with folks who had really large Instagram followings, and they're like that took too much from me, and I need a different way of showing up in public with my voice. And so for a free range writer, like the strategies that I like to recommend for them are just as open-handed with getting just enough shape so their readers can come along for this sort of free range journey. And then the third archetype is the architect, which is the second runner-up right now on the results from the quiz. And these are folks who most of them are the folks who have been journalists before. They've been in traditional media. They have been inside spaces where they've got an assignment, they've got an editor, they've got an ending, they've got a deadline, and that is how they know how to produce. They have a lot of editorial rigor. It's like this is a person who knows they're not designing the cover photo until the very end because they want the cover photo to be in alignment with the title, and then they're going to make sure that the cover photo doesn't contradict something inside the piece. Like these are folks who understand craft, and their readers really do come to expect a certain level of excellence. And because of that, there tends to be more ability for like their work to be shared widely because there's a clear next step for readers. It doesn't mean that free range writers and wayfinders don't have enthusiastic audiences, but an architect tends to draw people who are ready to do the right next thing and to help support the publication. And so inside their strategies, like I always try to be aware of the fact that architects can get creatively stuck inside their methods. And I think they're the ones that I've heard the most. I'm ready to throw the whole thing out. And I'm like, wait, why? Why? It looks great. What's going on? Let's talk about what's going on inside, because an architect can lean so far toward reading their what they perceive their audience is requiring of them, that they then sort of lose that spark. They lose touch with that creative line inside of them. So I don't know. Is there a way for me to just ask really quickly? I can see the live chat right now. Like, who in here has taken the quiz yet? Do you know which type you are? And are any of these sort of like descriptions resonating with you? Oh, I see. Mieta. Oh, hi, Mieta. It's nice to see you. She says she's an architect, but she is very creative. Yeah, for sure. There's definitely, I think the thing that was really important to me about each of the archetypes is that one isn't more or less creative. It's more about how you bring your work into the world. And because of how you bring your work into the world, that can necessarily create really good support, or it can create creative hurdles for you. And so I think that's where my eye kind of goes inside these outcomes, is I'm looking for where you get stuck in what you're trying to bring into the world, because it usually comes, you can usually trace it back to how you're publishing and how much energy you're putting into how you organize your work. Brandy says, I took it and my result was architect. That resonated very much with me and what you just said about it. That's great. Yeah. So like architects are, yeah, they're probably the people who come to Substack the most, who are going to discover something. Like if you stick with it for 12 months, you're going to discover something about your creative process because of the nature of the discoverability system on Substack. It's going to change the way that you're used to relating with your work and an audience. So I love, I've got a lot of plans for staying in touch with my wayfinders, my architects, and my free range writers, because the arc is long. Like what you discover when you know how you publish and you let yourself do that from a place of self-trust, you uncover things along the way. Thanks for sharing, Brandy. And I'm going to share the link once more in case folks haven't taken it yet. It's about it's 12 questions. Right now, the average is like it's 5 minutes, 5.5 minutes to take it. Yeah. Okay. So Nieta says, I'm an architect due to being neurodivergent, and structure is important to me, and it is safe for me. Yeah. So that structure, I 100% relate that, like, the structure tends to be a little more fluid depending on where you fall inside the spectrum of neurodivergence. The thing that I'm always interested in is like um, the tweak that you can make to your structure that like opens you up creatively. Like that's something I hope to explore soon in the publishing spectrum, because for me, I know that in the past, if I've leaned too hard on my systems, the systems start to kind of self-impose this sort of like, I don't know, can feel kind of droll. So I'm very aware. I have a very fluid like friendship with the structure versus the creativity. I guess you could say I'm probably a wayfinder too. Though I started as a free range writer for sure. Brandy says, that's what Substack has been for me, discovering who I am as a writer and what specifically I want to write about. I've been here a year and a half. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. It's you're just now you're getting into the layers of what's really juicy about being on Substack. So anybody else? You want to chime in and tell me like where you landed? Oh, Kevin, I think I missed you. You said you were an architect. That doesn't surprise me. Kevin always brings really good questions about the data inside his publication. And so I host a publishing mentorship inside the publishing spectrum, and we have publication check-ins for the folks in there. Architects tend to be a little more data curious. Doesn't mean that others aren't, but how they relate to it is really specific, and it's a really important sort of piece of their publishing puzzle. Yeah, let me see. So of the descriptions that I was describing, like, was there anything that like felt like you that you wanted to ask a question about, like where you feel stuck, or what you would like to know about like doing next, based on where your Substack publication is? Um, oh, hi, Rita. It's nice to see you. I was just walked through the three types of publishing archetypes and talking about how folks find themselves inside the system, inside their Substack, and what they discover the longer that they're on Substack about their own creativity, what they're here to do with their voice, where their systems get in the way versus support them. So I was going to open it up for just a few more minutes, to just hear from folks about what kind of results they've gotten, um, before we wrap up. Let me see. It's so nice to see everybody here today. I know it's a holiday in the United States today, but we've got a lot of folks around the world, so I thought I would go live to hang out with y'all for a little bit. So Rita's asking, she's wondering if she should publish more than once or twice a week. That depends. How's it going right now? While you're typing, I'm going to go find a resource because I think I know what you're about to say. And I think I have a resource for you. So while Rita's typing her response to if she should publish more than once or twice a week, she says, right now it's slow. She's noticed people who publish daily get a lot of traction, but those are political ones, so I know it's different. Yeah, so you definitely want to be aware of your audience and what their just typical bandwidth is for getting lots of emails in their inbox. I think the thing, whenever someone says, should I publish more? I ask them about their nudge cycle. Like, how are they moving their work through the Substack network versus just landing in people's inboxes? There's a lot of post-publishing work that that's important. That's actually, I would just say it's required. it's required here. And so whenever someone says that they're wondering if they should publish more, my first question is to find out, what do you do once you publish one piece? Because that piece has a life cycle to nurture. And let me share this. This is do, do, do. And then the nudge cycle is basically like my framework for like how to think through, okay, I've published a piece. How do I give it more of a life inside the Substack network and help it reach my readers so that I'm not always churning out long form pieces? Let me see here. Sorry, it's taking a second. So yeah, so this will take you to a page where I've kind of outlined like what to do with a piece once it's been published, so that isn't just drop in their inbox or drop on your homepage and then you never touch it again. It has a lot of work to do. It can do a lot inside the system. Nieta says she's doing a mix of writing and recording right now. You mean like audio? Audio's great. Audio's great if you don't put a lot of pressure on yourself. I tried to put a lot of pressure on myself at first a couple of years ago, and then I just kind of decided that, oh, Kevin actually asked, any thoughts on audience engagement when adding audio posts? Um, honestly, I don't have any real data to back it up, but I've made a litmus test for myself, which is that if I am synthesizing, um, like work across the Substack sort of network. Oops, I'm going in and out. But if I'm synthesizing something sort of from my own vantage point, like I'm using data, I'm doing things that like only I could do. I take the time to record the audio so that folks understand sort of my approach to this work, because voice just tells people something different about that work. For the nudge cycle is like more of a longer essay how-to piece. I don't believe I did a voiceover for that one just because I just didn't sense that was a good use of my time. So I use my best judgment and my, I don't know, I'm going to invent something right now, my publishing spoons. I don't know if y'all are familiar with spoon theory, but my publishing spoons get eaten up typically just on the writing side of things. But if I feel like there's something where my particular perspective is coming in, I will take the time to add audio. Oh yeah, Nieta says audio posts help with her audience because she's focused on the disability community. Yeah, Rita says I know all about spoons. Yeah, I publishing spoons are a real thing. I think that's actually what this quiz helps too, is because I don't know about y'all, but I read a lot about strategy and ideas and like what to test next. And there's so much about it that can sound good on the surface, but like if I know it's going to just throw a wrench into my whole system and then I don't publish for 3 weeks because this one hack like took too much from me, like what's the point of that? Like I'm gonna be further back than I was when I started. So yeah, I enjoy knowing what is actually helpful for me and then taking those lightly holding strategic things to try inside my publication. So I protect my publication first and then I add in tests inside it. Oh, Mary Beth says it's taken me 3 years to figure out my publishing spoons. Yeah, maybe I should have named it the Publishing Spoons quiz instead of the Publishing Archetype quiz. Because ultimately that is sort of what I'm trying to protect here and give people guidance around, is like, what do you do so that your publication can actually grow and not get stuck on doing things that are just going to steal from your creative energy. So that's great. So I'm watching some of the chats, kind of making sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, well, I tell you what, folks, I'm mindful of the time. We're getting into the lunch hour on the East Coast. If you haven't taken the Publishing Archetype Quiz, It's free. It's free to take. Oops, no, not here. It's another link. Hey, Sean. Oh, can I link to my content about publishing spoons? I just made it up. I just made up the concept live on a live stream. But I think the concept is well sort of that's basically the idea inside the publishing archetype quiz is that once you know how you publish on Substack, you can more readily know, like, no, that's going to take too many spoons. I want to protect the integrity of my publication, how I'm nurturing my readers. Um, that's really I'll write an essay about it. That sounds fun. I'll write an essay about your publishing spoons, um, because it's ultimately what I'm trying to help people do is to protect their craft, protect their voice by knowing how they publish, so that they are nurturing their audiences in the way that works for them, so that they are building the publication that can stand the test of time and self-differentiate along the way. Um, so, so yeah. So if you haven't taken the quiz, it's free. Once you know your type, if you want to go deeper, I did write like reports for each of them, and those are $15 inside my resource store. There's no like gotcha. Like you can still get the free result, and you can meet your, I think we call them like your archetype besties in the comments. And I've got some plans for how to help folks find people who publish similarly on Substack so that we can share resources a little bit better, but that's coming a little later. Yeah, so thanks so much for tuning in and letting me talk about this quiz, and let me share with you about just like why it's important to know this about yourself and how I really do. I think as someone with a long history in publishing and editorial craft and working with writers and founders, like the through line is you, right? Like the through line is you, and knowing how to unlock the thing that is inside you really is, at the end of the day, that's like the ground floor for everything you build on top of your publication. So it was really lovely to see all of y'all, and I'll be publishing the replay here probably later today or tomorrow. So nice to see y'all. Talk to you soon. Bye.